in connection with 40 different threats online against New York City police officers. This following the assassination of those 2 officers last week. Have you seen any similar threats in your community?
Well, police officers on a daily basis live in a state of hypervigilance about their exterior surroundings. But what's going on in New York right now and many other cities across America, here in Milwaukee as well, is this unjustified, if you will, hatred toward the police. And that pathway was created recently by some very powerful people in the United States who've made some very inflammatory comments about our American police officers, that being Mayor de Blasio, that being President Obama, and that being Eric Holder. So I'm not going to engage in hyperbole and say that they caused what's going on, but like I said, they created that pathway for purely political purposes, and I think that's what the shame is here.
Well, let me ask you this. Because I watched live on CNN as this news unfolded over the weekend about the 2 officers being killed. I watched Mayor de Blasio speak at the press conference, and I've seen him in the days after going to the memorial site, etc. And my question to you is, I've also watched the video of the police officers, some of them turning their back on the mayor, right, believing that he has not been supportive of them. What would you like to see happen? What would you like to see from Mayor de Blasio, from the President, from Attorney General Eric Holder?
Well, both of these individuals have had several chances to come out of the gate and say something responsible and say something to calm things down. What I'd like to hear from Mayor de Blasio right now, because I think there's a way forward for him, but the first thing he's going to have to do is disavow any further association with race hustler Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton is a vulgar human being. He's divisive and he spews hate. I think that would be a huge first step, and it would be a good faith gesture toward the New York Police Department, where the mayor could exemplify that he's going to change his tune, he's going to start supporting that police department, and if it weren't for the NYPD officers, that city would collapse into utter chaos, and he knows that. But again, politics trumped reasonableness from the mayor, and now he's paying for that. The chickens are coming home to roost.
Sheriff, let me ask you about this case in Milwaukee and the protest with the shooting of Dontre Hamilton back in April. The DA just decided, so it's taken months, just decided not to press any charges here. This was a mentally ill man that the officer says grabbed the officer's baton, struck him with it, then the officer shot and killed the man. You called these protesters anarchist groups exploiting tragic situations to create chaos. Are you saying there is no merit in these protests?
None whatsoever, unequivocally, none whatsoever. Let me give you a brief statistic in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In 2012 and 2013, 80% of the murder victims in our city are black. 75% of the suspects in those murders were black. It's the black-on-black homicide we ought to be outraged about, and we ought to be protesting.
Can't we have...
Instead of these slight... Well, wait a minute, though. These things that happen with law enforcement officers, tragic, no doubt about that. But they are a sliver of what's going on in America's ghettos today, and it's the black-on-black crime. So if we want to have the discussion, let's have an objective one. Okay,
but can't we have both of these discussions side by side? Because looking at this data from a brand new CNN ORC poll, what it showed is that 42% of the non-white community believe that most or some police officers are prejudiced against blacks. Given what the numbers bear out, do you not think that there is a basis to have a conversation about this alongside of a conversation about black-on-black crime? Why can't we have them both? Why are they not both important?
Well, I'm not saying we can't have both, but many of the individuals who are in this thing for nefarious purposes, they don't want to have the other one that I'm talking about. So, you know, the 42%, I'd say, show me the data that supports your position. And let's have a objective, reasonable conversation, strip away the emotion, strip away the distortions, strip away the lies and the myths about our American police officer, and then we can have that discussion. But until somebody shows me, I'll give you another piece of data here. Since 1999, police use of deadly force against black males is down 75%. In 2011 and 2012, 386 white people were killed by police officers, 140 black people were killed by police officers in that same time period. So I'm just saying, let's put the data out there and let's have an objective discussion minus the emotion and the rhetoric.
Sheriff, let me ask you about this. On December 23rd, just a few days ago, Mitch Smith, a reporter for the New York Times, tweeted that he followed you, and then within hours you blocked him and sent him this message. I'm going to read the tweet that he says was a direct message from you to him. Quote, "If only these faux protesters were asked by media about all the black-on-black killing or black babies aborted in the U.S. every year. A, is his reporting correct? Did you send him that message? And B, if so, what did you mean by it?"
Yes, I did. And that's, you know, when I hear these things that Black Lives Matter, the only people that really believe that statement are American police officers who go into American ghettos every day to keep people from killing each other. All right, so yes, I did send that, and I meant it. The abortion, Black lives, if they really mattered, that's where the outrage would be. That's what we'd see protests about. But when we see the black-on-black homicide that happens on a very frequent basis, we don't see protests, we don't see marches, we don't see demands for change. So this has been a one-way conversation that I'm just trying to present a counter-narrative to balance this thing and so that we can have that discussion. But what I'm sensing from the media, I mean, when you started out this thing, you talk about a mentally disturbed man in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yes, he's mentally disturbed, but the fact is he was attacking a police officer with a nightstick made out of hickory that's designed, the police officer's nightstick, that's designed to break bones. And if used in the wrong area like a head, and we train our officers, don't use this thing toward the head because you could kill somebody or cause great bodily harm. So this individual took that nightstick and was wielding it in an offensive manner against a police officer, and we want to brush that aside and talk about the fact that he was died and 14 shots were fired, and that stuff's all true. But that officer was under attack, and he responded appropriately. Yeah. Under the rule of law.
And what I said at the outset was that he struck the officer with the baton. Let me ask you this, because we're going to have the memorial today for Officer Ramos and then a funeral tomorrow in New York City. Vice President Joe Biden will be attending that funeral. You have accused the White House, as you were telling me earlier, about fanning the flames of political discourse. Are you encouraged to see that the Vice President is going to go to this funeral? Are you encouraged at what you're seeing in reaction from the White House to these two slain officers?
Not at all. I think they're offering up the JV team as the president, a phrase that he's used recently to some world events. I'd like to see the president of the United States show up in New York at this funeral.
So
that
you
again
think he
would be a good
come back from Hawaii for this
step, and that would be a yes, I do.
Continue what you were saying. That would be a good faith step, and
that would be a good faith step toward calming the waters, if you will, here. You know, sending a surrogate, I don't know. I got a lot of respect for Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been a supporter of law enforcement for many decades. But again, you know, with what's going on, I think leadership is needed here from the top. And the top would be the President of the United States. That would be powerful if he showed up at these funerals today.
Sheriff
or this weekend, I should say.
Sheriff Clark, again, thank you for your service and your time this morning. We appreciate it.
That's